is not just one thing. It's not just a logo. It's not just your copy. It's not just your last marketing campaign. It's not just your packaging. It's not just your customer experience. It's not just how many bean bags you have in your break room. It is all of those things, and that all together. And if we are working on them in isolated pockets and in silos, individual within themselves, we get fractioning, we get a cluttered brand. So unless you have a PhD in someone's brand and you study them and you're trying to figure it out, you don't really understand what's going on. And so oftentimes when we deal with companies, one of the first things that we hear in our onboarding and discovery session is, we'll hear somebody say, I don't get it. I'm doing the same marketing campaigns. I'm posting on social media every day. I did the Groupon thing that everybody says to do. I, did my San Antonio Express News, ad. I, did all these things, and my product is so much better than theirs. And why do they have a line wrapped around the building? And I just can't. I feel like just nobody gets it, right? And you're right. It's not that nobody cares. It's that nobody gets it. And so branding isn't about doing all the things separately. It's about having one system that all comes together to work for, right? And so whether you do products or services, whether you own a product-based business or service-based industry, that that's true even of your things, right? So in order to make a product, it all has to come together, right? We all have to know what the product looks like at the end to make that car. When you're doing services, they're not isolated. They all work together to create that transformation for your clients. And so in the same way, your branding has to do that. And so today we're going to talk about a marketing plan and how that plugs into this overall system. How do we create goals that is not just, geez, it's January 1st. I've got to make $100,000 by January 31st. What do I do? What do I post? What sale do I do? What social media thing is gonna go viral that I could maybe grab a few sales from to hit that goal? And so what we want to avoid is this from scratch mentality where every month it's like, oh, another month, another sales. It's like you get that moment of like ecstasy on the last day of the month where you're like, yay, I made it, or yay, I was close. And then the next day you're like, from scratch again. What's the plan this month, right? And so we want to avoid that kind of stress and put together a more cohesive plan. So if that sounds good to you, just type a Y in the chat box. So I don't know if everybody has a piece of paper handy or a Post-it, but if you would just write on a piece of paper one goal that you've set for yourself, one thing you want your marketing to achieve this year, and then just hold it up to the screen so I can see it. I'm just really bad with tech, and so for me to go through the chat is harder. It'll take me longer. And while you're doing that, I'm going to attempt to share my screen. So if I mess it up, I have time to. Okay. And then this one's small on me. Let me make it bigger. All right, so I can get everybody in here. Okay. I'll give you like another minute and then I'll ask you to hold them up. That way nobody gets arm fatigue. Katie, I don't know what you're doing back there, but I love your Post-it setup.
I haven't used that board in a while because I have an app for that now, but I thought, well, it looks kind of nice. Like when I'm on a Zoom meeting, like I don't have to put a fake background. I look really official.
I was impressed. It's like, what has she got going on back there? I love Post-its. All right, ready? Let's hold them up. Let me see if I can read them. Okay, I've got Brian, increased exposure. Okay, get more clients. Michelle, I can't see you. I see you have one, I just can't read it. Will you unmute yourself and holler?
Who was that? Me? Mine says acquire compatible clients.
Okay. And then Michelle, acquire. So I got Joy's acquire compatible clients, and then Michelle.
Ideal clients, more authenticity, like your tribe.
Got it. Awesome. I love that. Okay, good. So you guys are my people. One of the things that we love to do, and one of, it's deeply embedded into the way we develop brands and the way we craft brands, is that we work with impact driven brands, people who don't just buy and sell products. They really take a pride in what they do, and they really want to make an impact in the community. And so they're looking for the people that we're going to value that, right? So these aren't people who are trying to be the cheapest option. These are the people who are trying to be the best option and then be seen as quality. And when you're at that point, that's when you want to take your branding into consideration. So love that you guys said that. There's a lot of good stuff here to help you with that. Also, this is very informal. So if you have a question, you can just unmute yourself and completely interrupt me. I do not mind. I am easily distracted, so I might squirrel on you, but that will be easier than the chat, because sometimes I'll miss the chat. Okay, so today, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about what marketing is, how do we make sense of the numbers so that we can set up proper goals, and how to set up a marketing plan you can actually stick to. So marketing campaigns are really fun when you're designing them, and they really stink when you've got to debunk them and debrief them and look at the charts and the numbers and the percentages and the click-through rates and all that kind of stuff. And so we're going to try and break this down and make it much simpler for you guys, and make it mean something, right? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but most of you guys, at least in part, participate in your own marketing. Very few of you guys are like completely 100% offloading it to an advertising, branding, or marketing firm, right? And so, and even if you were, I would always recommend understanding your numbers. It's not your job to know if the blue is pretty enough, right? But it is your job to know if it's working and if it's not, so that when your marketer is trying to work with you and say, look, this is what we think, this is why we think it, this is how it's performed, you can have that intelligent conversation with them and be a part of that, so that you can work together cohesively and synergistically. And so today is all going to be about goal setting, understanding numbers so that you can set actual marketing goals for yourself. And we're going to take this into the second session, where we're going to actually put it together. We're actually going to create a campaign. We're actually going to create some good stuff. Okay, so next slide. So the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the difference between advertising, marketing, and sales. Okay, so brand is a super popular word. Everybody loves to use it. It's really fun to use, and it's clickbait. And so you can say it and just people will buy it because everybody wants a brand. All business owners want a brand. But what's happened in that is the definition can get a little bit tricky. There's, I think, currently 17,000 different definitions of what a brand is. So, and then they throw a lot of different words in it, like advertising, marketing, and sales, and ideal and tribe, and avatars and segments and target markets, and so it just gets, it can get a little overwhelming. And so I want to break it down for you, give you what you need to know to wrap your brain around the principle of the matter, and what's important and what's not. And so when you look at what you're doing to get in front of your ideal market, to get in front of your tribe, right? You want to look at it in 3 different ways. You have your advertising piece, okay? And your advertising piece is going to be the thing that explains who you are, identity. So without getting too much in the weeds, there is in marketing a structure, and there are 5 levels, 5 degrees of sophistication in every market. And you go from like, hey, look, I invented a vacuum, and all you have to say is I invented a vacuum, because nobody else has made vacuums before. And so you win the market just because you're the only guy who's selling a vacuum, all the way to there are 30 different brands of vacuums, some with almost every different feature possible, every customization, pet hair, allergies, small spaces, for stairs, for hardwood floors, for stone, for commercial, for everything in the world. And you're trying to get noticed, like, hey guys, I've got one too, I've got a vacuum too. And so there are indicators in every industry, in every market, that tell you where you're at. Like every industry exists in a certain level of market sophistication, and the higher up that rung you go, from as you move from 1 to 5, the more the different campaign strategies you need to use to be able to sell your value and to get distinction, to get awareness and get those conversions, because it gets harder, right? You're leveling up, competition's getting steeper, and you've got to find a better way to do your marketing and branding. Well, the interesting thing is that research has shown that at a level 5, once you're in that, what can we use? A personal trainer realm right now, where like, or a skincare line realm where, there's just, billions of options. Then the defining thing that people will use to choose who they will do business with is how connected they feel to the brand, the identity of the brand. And so whether your industry is at a step 1 or a step 5, if you ever intend to make it long term, you're not just like a 10-year thing that you're gonna grow it and then sell it and then get rid of it and be done with it. You're going to need to work on your brand, because that will, as your market matures, if it's not at a 5 already, it will be, and you're going to need to have that component. And so the earlier you start that process, the better. Now, your brand does not have to be perfect. When you start it, it will always evolve. What you don't want your brand to do is pivot, right? You don't want to just keep changing. Like, oh, those are my people. No, those are not my people. Those are my people. No, those are not my people. Those are my people. No, those are not my people. And changing your identity and your messaging and your look time and time again, because all that asset that you build, all that leverage that you build, you just wad it up and toss it and you start again from scratch, right? And so advertising is rooted in your brand identity, and that never changes. Right? Nike has stood for the spirit of competition, competitive advantage, wanting to be the best, wanting to do the best for at least 30 years. That has not changed. And because they've stuck consistent with that identity and that ideology, they've been able to leverage that. So now, 30 years, 30 years later, well, it's been more than 30 years, but 30 years later, right? We look at a Nike and we look at a Walmart brand shoe, and we don't even need to ask ourselves, why is the Nike shoe 3 times more expensive than the Walmart shoe? That's not even a question. We know exactly why. That part of the conversation has already been answered. And so for some of you guys who have put up like getting my ideal market, getting people who will sign, who will get it, right? And by get it, we mean pay what I ask them to pay without complaining about the price, right? That's what we really mean. People who will willingly give us their money and pay top dollar because they understand the value of what they're getting, right? And so Nike had to work on that over time until we take that argument out of it. That's already done. We've already had that conversation. We've been having that conversation for 30 years. You know exactly why Nike costs what it costs. You don't even argue it. Whether you're willing to buy it or not depends on whether or not you're their target market. But whether you're a couch potato or a top Olympic athlete, you understand logically why Nike is worth so much more than a knockoff, right? And that is what your advertising is set to do. So we'll stick with the Nike example because we'll just keep it consistent. So an example of what advertising looks like is a Nike commercial that you've seen. We'll set the stage. It's black and white. It's a guy or a girl running on a track. There's sweat dripping. There's a voiceover, and they're talking about the spirit of competition, wanting to be the best, never giving up, always knowing that there's more. And then at the end of that, what slides in? It's not a Foot Locker guy with like, hey, you can buy this shoe for the low, low price of $100. It's just the swoosh and the brand. They're not selling you on the product. They're selling you on the idea of who they are, on the identity of who they are. And billion-dollar companies become billion-dollar companies because they understand that that's where the investment needs to go. Because until they can convince you that their product is that value, until they can convince you that if you believe in being the best, if you believe in having the best, if you believe in doing the best, then you're my people, then they've lost the game. The only way to win it is if they can convince you that they believe that too, and find those people. It's just like a laser, that messaging, those competitors, those athletes, it just hits them like a laser, right? It gives them the goose pimples and the hair on the back of their neck, right? They're down to buy some shoes. And they didn't even have to look at, they haven't even seen the shoe. They just know, like, yeah, Nike, my next pair of shoes is going to be a Nike. And we see the same thing with brands like Apple, right? most people who are waiting outside the store the night, well, not anymore, but back when people went to stores, right? They were wrapped around the building, and most of them didn't even know what the difference was between the iPhone in their pocket and the iPhone that they were getting at the store. They just knew it was the next iPhone, it was the new Apple thing, and they were going to get theirs before anybody else did, right? And that's that kind of brand loyalty. That's that kind of value. They didn't know what it was, but they knew it was good because it was Apple. And that's what you're building in the advertising piece. And that's hugely important. That's the investment. That is where you build the consistency in the following. That's what helps you with, like, we had a great year this year. Everybody got it. We got in front of the right people. And then nobody knows who we are. Why are sales tanking? We have no idea what happened, because you haven't built that story, because you don't have that consistency built in. So any questions on advertising before I move on to marketing? Everybody super clear on what it is, what its role is in this whole scheme of things? And so you've got to have campaign pieces that are dedicated strictly to the advertising, right? Then we have marketing. Now, we address these separately, but we can also use them in conjunction, right? But I'm just going to give you, you can always stack them and layer them in campaigns, but always you've got to be addressing this. This is something that happens. Your advertising is something that should be happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, all the time, nonstop. Now, your marketing, those are the things that happen in campaigns, in pockets. These don't necessarily have to be running all the time. It can be when you're putting in select time pieces, right? So your marketing is when you're actually putting the product in front of someone. This is when you're saying, I believe in competition, I believe in being the best, and to prove that I can walk the walk and I'm not just talking at you, I'm going to show you this beautifully designed shoe that's got memory foam and super snazzy traction and unbreakable laces, and I don't sport, but you get it, right? All the bells and whistles and the features. That's where we get into the features and what makes a Nike better. But until you've got their interest, they're not going to sit down for that 30-minute elevator pitch, right? You've got to get their interest first. So that marketing piece is where we introduce the product, where we say, hey, we've got a new product. Hey, have you tried this lavender scent? Have you, hey, we've got a workshop going on. Hey, we've got, did you know that we will, part of our service includes a free audit of your last tax return. I don't know, right? So I'm just thinking of things that are happening in my life right now, right? So like that's where you put the products in front of people. Now we get to the sales. Now, if you've done a beautiful job in your advertising and they know who you are and they identify with you, they trust you, they like you, and they also love what you put in front of them and say, you know what? This company gets it. They get it. They get why this is important. They understand. They believe what I believe. And they've made this super cool product for people like us, right? Because now we're in this us position, build that connection. Now it's just sales. And sales should be the easiest part of this. That's like the mind-blowing part, right? Sales should be the easiest part because you've already done all the hard work and you've been doing it all year throughout the year. At the position of sales, all we're doing is we're answering the question, will it work for me? All you should be doing in sales is overcoming objections. That's it. So now it's like, well, we have a 12-month payment plan. Like, oh, that sounds great, but I'm a little strapped for cash. Do you have a payment plan? Oh, this skincare looks great, but you know what? I break out the minute I put anything on my face. Is it for sensitive skin? Oh, I love this yogurt, but I'm allergic to dairy. Do you have a lactose-free version? Whatever that is, right? So now you're just overcoming objections, making sure that it's a good fit. That's your job there. You're answering, you're dismissing and not dismissing, you're answering and you're overcoming those last little details that are going to give them that sense of security. Like, oh, I believe that your marketing firm is fantastic, but what if it isn't? Like, what if it just like, what, oh, you have a guarantee, or, oh, you can show me 6 testimonials of people who've gone that are just like my business that have done this with you and they've made twice as much money, or whatever that is, right? This is where it's easy because you know the answers to these questions because you've designed your service and your products to solve these problems. And so that's where you get to shine. That's where you get to say, yeah, I know. Doesn't it suck when you throw money at marketing and it doesn't work? Here's how we resolve that. We track everything. We put these reports together for you. Here are testimonials of our clients who've used us and loved us and have made tons of money with us. That's where you get to shine. And so you've got to set up your story to function in this way, because what a lot of small businesses do is, because we get the awesome privilege of being the bill payer and the marketer and everything in between, we tend to start from a sales first approach. But when you go from a sales, because we're thinking about like, I need this $2,000 sale to make my electric bill. We're thinking that we're sitting in a sales pitch meeting and we're thinking like, if I make this $10,000 sale, I've got rent for next month, right? And so we start with the money because that's the important thing to us. We've already figured out all this. We're worried about the money. We're worried about the sale. And so when we go into a sales meeting, campaign, whatever it is that you're doing, we hang on, I think we've got it. So when we start from a sales point of view, now we have the uphill battle of having to justify the price, because you lead with price and then it's like, whoa, well, let me tell you why it's worth it. But you're fighting it. You're not going with the current. You're going against the current. You're not going with the current. And so that's why we see closing ratios and conversion rates not perform the way we want them to, right? For an easy way to say it. So any questions on this section? Has anything gotten too detailed? Any clarification needed? Okay, cool. So now having seen this, I now want you to think about your campaigns. And I don't know if we can do a breakout. I don't know how to, I think maybe Daniela would be the only one who could do that. Let's see.
I think you can, but I can try to also do it.
Let me see, because I'm sharing, let me see.
You say breakout rooms under.
Yeah, could we do a breakout room and maybe just do it with 1, 2, 3. How many do we have? 12?
We have 15.
So maybe 4 in a group, and then.
So maybe 3, 5, 5, and 5.
Oh yeah, let's do 3 5s. Sorry, I was seeing 16. But yeah, my math is not compute. Yeah, I saw 16, but that's counting me. So yeah, so we'll do those 3 breakout groups. So when we break out, just take a minute, and after seeing this pyramid, I want you to write down next to what you originally wrote, and write down the one of these 3 areas that you think you might need to work on to help you achieve the goal that you have for yourself. What is that first project this quarter that you can look at and say, man, my advertising is pretty tight. Like, I've got my brand identity down. I'm missing the description of the product. Or maybe I'm not really prepping for the sales in the right way. Or maybe, you know what, I've got my sales pitch down, but I need to get my story straight. I need to get my identity straight. I need to be more attractive to people. And so when you look at that goal that you have for yourself, whether it's finding my tribe, whether it's bigger awareness, whatever it is that you wrote, I want you to write down what area you think would help you achieve that the best. So we'll break out into groups. We'll give it a couple minutes, talk it out. If you need some help with each other, like, let them know what you're kind of struggling with, and see if they can help you pinpoint one of the 3.
How long do you want to do the breakout, just so we have like a time to come back?
You want to give it, it's only 3 people in a group. You want to give it 3 minutes, a minute a person, just so we don't waste time? Is that, I know it's kind of rushed, but
okay.
Figure out your business in 1 minute. We'll meet back here.
Okay. And I think, Sarah, you can go in, but I don't know. There's like some folks that have it, like Jadida is on. I'm gonna move her here.
Well, I was thinking if I did that, I'm worried that I'll interrupt their minute, like, since they each only get a minute, I don't want to take up some of someone's minute.
There's like 3 people that didn't join. So
Okay.
we have a group of 4 and then a group of 3.
Okay. got this thing so that I can drink my water, but it's starting to give me anxiety because it gives you a time, like by weight.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
so
intense.
I'm like looking at the clock, it's 10:30, but I'm only at the 9 o'clock level. So I've got to like crank it up. My New Year's resolution to like get all my water in.
I had this one for, like, I got a similar one, like just this one, like in another color at a bingo thing, like a church thing with my mom. And it was getting all like gross and scratchy. So I got a new one because it's just a new color and it just works. I remember like, oh, like every time I go out, I try to bring it with me. So it's just kind of a habit of bringing it with me. It just makes me drink it, I guess.
Yeah.
But that way with the time is awesome because that way you can see it.
Yeah, well, and I also only like, I love ice cold water, but I don't like warm or like room. I can have it warm or I can have it hot or cold, but not room temperature. And
Really?
so I have this thing where, so I have like the big Yeti cup and then I'll fill it up and then I'll drink it till it gets room temperature and then I'll just forget about it. I won't ever like go back and get ice or I still drink it.
Right.
So like, I kind of have the stopping point where I just stop doing it. And so I start out really good and then I don't. And so I thought if I got this, I would. I'm relying on my OCD need to like check a box. Like I have to check this box. It has to be done.
Right. Well, this is great because this is all going to be in the recording, Sarah.
Nice. It's just all my OCD tendencies. This is fantastic.
People can know about your habits, drinking habits. I think I'm gonna
water drinking habits.
one more
Well,
minute.
good. Now everybody will hold me accountable. They'll be texting me like, "Are you drinking your water?"
I see. I'm drinking your water. We'll give it one more minute, I guess.
Yeah. I didn't check the time. 1 minute sounds about right.
It was like 10:29. So we're
Okay.
like around 3 minutes. So
Cool. We'll give them a surprise minute.
yeah.
Whenever we do breakout groups, it always runs to the end. So they'll have this little extra minute to.
Yeah. Sorry, that's Jacinto's being super annoying.
No, you're fine.
He wants to play.
I was reading an article on that. They were saying that with everybody going back to work, they're worried that dogs are going to have outbursts. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I can't remember the word they use, but you know, because
He's
they've gotten so
totally
used to
gonna
being
be,
home.
like, feel like we abandoned him because
Yeah. Yeah.
abandonment issues.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna close out.
Okay.
No, it's giving them an extra minute. This is like all breakouts will close in 52 seconds. No.
Surprised they got 5 minutes. It's a 5-minute breakout. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. Hit the later button. It looks like we're getting back. Why won't it? There it goes. It keeps shrinking to the little upper corner view, and then I can't see everybody. And I so miss in-person talks that the next best thing is for me to see everybody's face. Okay. Awesome. All right, if I can see the chat.
What do you need?
If anybody, is that everybody back? I think so. Okay, so is everybody good to go? If you're good to go, type a Y in the comments. If you're completely lost, type an N. Okay, cool. Good. Awesome. Okay, perfect. Good. Hate to like, when you do a 30-minute explanation, then they lost you in the first sentence. All the way back. So we're good to go. All right. So basically, what we've done now is we understand that advertising builds your awareness and your value, marketing solves a problem for your customer, and sales are what turn people who are would-be, who are interested in your offer, into people who actually have your offer. So based on what your goal was at the beginning of this, you can easily see now where you need to be focused on. And what this does is it really helps people get a sense of focus, because with marketing, we tend to be, it's like so hard to decide, right? There's so many options and there's so many platforms and there's so many types of campaigns and there's so many things to be doing and there's so many things that are important, but this is like the one thing, right? You have your goal, you know what you need to do this year, and now you know what tool is going to help you get there. And so that's going to narrow that scope for you a little bit and give you some clarity as far as goal wise, what's the plan to achieve the goal, right? We know what we're working on, what category. All right, now we're going to talk about some numbers. So if you don't have a piece of paper, iPad, scribble, whiteboard, super snazzy Post-its, get one now, because we're gonna do some work. Okay, so when we're looking at goals and building campaigns, we wanna talk numbers. One of the biggest questions we get asked is, what is a good budget for marketing? What should I be spending on marketing? And the answer is it varies between business and how long you've been in business. And the longer you've been in business, if your marketing has been doing its job, that number will be less because you have a more consistent, solid way. Your cost to acquire is going to be down. But generally speaking, 10 to 12% of your revenue is a good budget. Okay. Now, having said that, it's a range. But if you're finding yourself spending more than 15% of your revenue on marketing and you're struggling financially, that's a red flag. That you're spending way too much on marketing and you're not getting what you need. That is when you need to get some professional help from a marketer and say, look, even if you can't afford to have them do the campaigns, I would say it'd be a good investment of your money to just sit down with somebody and have them on a project basis, just look over your stuff and give you an assessment, give you an evaluation, say like, look, this is the glaring problem. I think this is what you should work on, so that you at least have a direction. But these are kind of like the bounds that we're setting right now, just so that you get a good handle on money-wise where you should be going. Likewise, if you're spending under 8% of your revenue on marketing and you're not growing your business the way you want to grow it, that's why, right? Marketing is an investment. And so, if you're only putting in 2% of your annual salary to your 401 target fund, you're probably not going to retire at 65, right? It's just not going to grow the way you need it to grow because you're not putting enough into that investment. And so I would really look at that and pull those numbers. And for those of you guys, because we're all in business and we're all in business in a different place. And so as we go through the numbers, this is going to be a little woo, right? But it's just where you are is where you're meant to be. If there are numbers that we're talking about and you have no idea about what your numbers are, you've never recorded these numbers, you have no idea what you spent, you have no idea what your percentages are, that's okay. Now you know what to record. Today starts day one so that you can start to track these things and you can keep track of it. So don't feel bad about anything that you don't have. It just is further proof that you were meant to be here. And it was, kismet that we met. So don't sweat it if you don't have it. Now you know what you need. So now you know what you should be recording and tracking. Okay, so how many of you guys, let me see if I can do the chat thing again. If you'll just put in the chat, how many of you guys sit down and look at the statistics and the analytics of a campaign that you've run? Whether that's a digital ad or I bought 500 brochures, how many sales did they buy me kind of thing, right? All the spectrum. I know there's all kinds of different businesses here. If that is something that you do always, I want you to type a 1. If it's something that you do sometimes, type a 2. And if you're asking me like what statistic, then that's a 3. I just want to get kind of an idea so I know how deep to go here. Awesome. Yeah, we got a good spread. Okay, we got a good spread. And like I said, again, like where we are is where we are. Now we know. Okay. So unpacking your campaigns is like one of the most important things to do. And I know that's easy for someone like me to say, because I love numbers and I love math and I love looking at things in that analytical way. And that's not everybody. The fun part of marketing is definitely designing the social media post. I get it. Like I'm down, I'm with you, right? But or some of you, it's like, that's the worst. That's the part that melts my brain. But you know, for most people working on marketing, the fun part's the design. The part that we like to think about is like planning what it should do, but seldom do we look at what did it actually do, right? We know in our minds, we've got it all mapped out. This is our path to $1 million. But then like something happens and we're not sure what. And so we either say, we got 10 sales out of it, so it was a win, or we didn't get any sales out of it and it was a loss. But we don't know that that's true, right? Not until we really look at it. So 10 sales may or may not be a win, depending on what it cost you, what your cost to acquire was, what they spent with you, what they will spend with you over a lifetime, what the runway was. And if you got no sales out of it, it may not be that the campaign idea was bad. It could have been something in the execution, right? That didn't go the way it should have. Maybe the link didn't work. Maybe, you know, you put the old logo on one landing page and the new logo on the other landing page, and they thought they were with a different company, and, you know, they all abandoned cart. It could have been a million things, right? But until we actually look at it, we don't know. We don't know what's happened. And so unpacking a campaign that you've already done is really important. And so when you guys schedule campaigns to run, I would love it if in that schedule, you also scheduled the time to unpack it, right? Because there's just so much work going into the campaign, and it's almost like once it's live, you just kind of like, whew, done, right? I made it, that's over. But that's half the battle. And so when you're mapping it out and you say, this is my pre-launch runway, this is my launch, this is my live active campaign calendar timeframe, and now this is my post timeframe. This is the time that I'm going to set aside, you know, to unpack what happened and pull the numbers out. And make sure you give it some time. Make sure you give it enough time to where the campaign's run its course and the numbers have settled in, right? You don't want to do it on the last day of the campaign because you may still have data coming in. Okay. So if you can remember, if you have a list, if you have it documented somewhere, this is going to take you 2 minutes. If you don't, it may just be your best guess or from your best memory. But I want you to go back and look at the campaigns you ran last year. What was the offer? Was it 50% off? Was it buy one, get one? Was it bring a friend? Was it 20% off? Was it, hey, we have a new product? Was it Christmas gift packaging, free gift wrap? You know, what was the offer? What was the thing that you were running? What was the campaign? Or if you've not done anything like that, it could just be like, set up book a discovery call, you know, book an appointment, come by the store and buy clothes, you know, whatever that is, whatever it is that you ran, what the offer was, put that down there. What was your price point? And then what is your gross margin on that product? So one of the things that we want to look at is what are the best products or services to spend money promoting, right? Because we want to have a good idea, because if you're promoting a product that has a smaller margin, you may not want to spend quite as much on advertising unless it's a gateway product, right? Unless you're going to pull the old football phone bait and switcheroo, right? But mapping that out, understanding like, is this a good product to put a lot of money behind because I don't make very much on it. So why would I push that product, right? So looking at what your margin is on that particular offer or that particular, and considering what the offer was. So sometimes we put out a buy one, get one free, and we've lost money because of our COGS. And then we've also spent advertising money on it for the campaign, but we don't factor that in, right? We factor in what we spent on ads, but we don't factor in what we lost in product or, you know, time. So like, what's your margin on this offer? Then how many did you sell? What did you bring in totally? What was your total revenue? And then which one of your segments, which one of your audience categories did you sell to? So I see something in the chat. Oh, no problem. Yes, so audience verticals or segments, you can call them targets, tribes, we call them all different kinds of things. What that is a category of people that you sell to. So it could be single moms, it could be millennials, it could be small business owners, it could be post-baby moms, it's a collection of people that have similar characteristics that you sell to. And I want you to look for some similarities. I want you to start segmenting these categories and these groups, right? By revenue, by industry, product, by their industry, are they product, are they service? Now the industry is going to differ for each person based on what your product is. And I'll backtrack and explain that a little bit more. So I'm going to get through it once and then I'll clarify because I know it's getting a little confusing right now. And then categories, which is the groups that they're in. It's what's relevant for you. So let me backtrack and explain this a lot more clearly. So we want to segment or our groups of people. And we want to look at our customers and define who they are. So if you've never made a segment, this is how you do it. And this is how you want to look at them. One, you want to look at the revenue you make for them, because that's going to tell you who's an A client, who's a B client, who's a C client, right? We all have clients that, we generate more money from than others, whether that's the products they buy. Some people maybe only buy the lip gloss, other people buy like your super expensive foundation, or others who just use you on an hour consulting versus people who do project-based work with you. That's a little bit more. You also want to note their industry. You want to see where they are from an industry perspective. For us in our business, we break it down by, are they a product-based business or a service-based business? Because in our industry, in advertising, that's what makes sense for us. When we look at all of our clients, we can clearly see that clients with product-based businesses tend to do a lot of design work with us. We get a lot more design work with us. And so when we look at the kind of money we make from them, because they've got packaging and they've got shipping boxes and they've got item descriptions and they need photography and they need all these things. And so most of the revenue that we sell, that we bring in for product-based businesses is in that graphic design realm, versus service-based industries. They've got to explain how their coaching program or their program or their tax service or their CPA firm is different than another. So we spend a lot more time. We spend a lot of our projects for them are based on copy and identity and messaging and personas. And so when we're doing campaigns, we're talking to two different sets of people, right? That's the breakdown that makes sense for us. You will have your own breakdown based on your industry, based on what you offer people. You'll start to see that, hey, this is who I sold to, and this is who they are. This is the type of business they are. And you'll start to see those similarities so that you can start to group them into something that makes sense for you. And then the categories, again, is a different distinction that you can use for them. So you can create another classification that will help you organize your people. So for us, it's we use, are they bricks and mortar or are they digital? Because for our industry, for branding and advertising, what we sell them is hugely different. If they're bricks and mortar, we're working with general contractors, interior designers, signage people, versus digital, and it's more web development and cart and e-commerce kind of stuff, right? And so for us, it made sense to break down the categories in that way. And so now when we're designing campaigns, I'm not just wondering, like, what do I say, right? What am I selling to them? What am I saying to them? How am I approaching them? What are their needs? And it just becomes this generic kind of, now I know exactly who I'm selling to, exactly what I sell to them, and exactly what information I need to give them so that they know I'm their match. This starts to organize your messaging and your campaign structure for you. Everybody good with that? Everybody?
Mhm.
Okay. So, if you don't mind me getting up really quickly. The one we did last. Really quickly. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I'll try and get the glare down. I'll just pull one page out of this from you and show you. No. Wait a while, can I pull? Yeah. So we can pull from here. Well, no, I can't because it's volume 2. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. You can do something like this. So we know we've organized them into different categories. How much revenue they bring. So for us, we categorize them by the things that group them together. So for us, the things that are important is how much revenue do they bring in. So we're going to sell a different product to a $100,000 company than to a multi-million-dollar company. It's a different level of service and things that they need. And then I already talked about the industry and the category. And so from that, you can make your plan. So now we're looking at what do I need to do to accomplish this goal? So there's a million ways to get to 100. You can, count by 5s, by 10s, by 20s. You can use odd numbers. There's a million different ways to do it. You've got to build your map. How is this going to look? What am I selling to? What segments am I going to sell to? So that you know how your money is going to be, how your budget's going to be allocated. So you take all of this information that you created in the segments, right? Your whatever things you use to categorize your people, whatever's true and good for your business, and you rate them. These are my A's, these are my B's, these are my C's, right? My A's, they're 10 million plus revenue, they're product-based businesses, they're this, that, and the other, and this is my average project for them. Like, this is my average sale for them. And so again, this is going to take you doing some digging. The first year we did it, we straight up printed our sales, we did the breakdown of our P&L and all the sales we did a customer, we sorted for customers. We printed every customer name and what the sale was. And we just started highlighting and color-coded highlighters, which is why I liked Katie's Post-its. I'm all about the color coding. And we just started grouping them and categorizing them and seeing what we were selling them and then getting the average. So of these kinds of clients, of our clients that are $10 million companies that have X and Y, segments and industries, whatever, we average about $80,000 a project. And so now we know that if this is what we are going to make from it, we know how much we're willing to spend on it, right? To get that customer. It gives you a sense of not shooting in the dark when you look at, is it smart to do my marketing? A lot of people are worried about that, right? When you think of marketing, what's the biggest hesitation about spending money on marketing? Am I going to get it back? Will I make enough? Will I be selling it to the right people? Well, this tells you who the right people are. And anybody who's not an A, B, or C isn't somebody that you should be actively spending money to get into your fold. If you get a few random ones by default, fantastic, but you're not going to spend a penny on getting them, especially as a small business. You got to focus on where the money's coming from. Double down on what's working before you start trying to work on what's not working. First, create efficiency on what is working and double down on those areas. And then we'll open up. But too often we're trying to open up our market to more and more people and bigger people and more segments, but we don't have the marketing budget to do that. And so we have that already strapped marketing budget further divided until it spreads so thin it's ineffective, right? And so I would limit it to 3 at most. Now that you know who your A's are and how much money you're making from them, and who your B's are and how much money you're making from them, and who your C's are and how much money you're making from them, now it's time to decide and understand how much it costs you to get them, right? So before I move on, everybody thumbs up, we're good? Everybody's understanding? I know this is why we broke it into 2 segments, because this is the really hard part about going deep into the numbers. And then we'll do the campaign next time, building the campaign, but I didn't want to hit you with it all at once. So now we talk about the cost to acquire. So you want to do this for each of your segments. For each of these little circles that you've done, you want to see what is your cost to acquire them. So you take the cost that you spent on advertising, if you've done any advertising costs, you take, and when you do that, take your overall advertising cost and then just divide it by your offers, so that you can, it's not exactly how it's done, but it's a close enough ballpark, right? So if you spent $100 on advertising and you have 10 products, then this number here is going to be 10, right? It represents 10% of your overall budget, and you can just use that as a filler until and then now your marketing campaign costs. So if you also ran $2,000 campaigns that year for that specific Nike shoe, the Air Jordan, you're going to add your campaign cost there. Then you're going to add any cost for sales. So if after you ran that cost, you also had to pay a sales guy commission, or you also had to print in-store coupons, or you also had to whatever at the point of sale, anything that you spent to close the deal in the sales category, you add that in. So now you know in total what it cost you to make that money, to make that revenue. And so you divide that by the number of customers you got. And that is your cost to acquire. So if it costs you $100 for your advertising, marketing, and sales, and you divide it by the 10 customers you got, now you know it costs you $10 to get a new customer. That's what your stats are. Think of it like a baseball card. That's your cost to acquire stat. Now you go back and you say, okay, well, this product is my Air Jordan, and my Air Jordan guy spends $200 on a pair of shoes for me. So it cost me $10 to get him, and he's spending $200 on a shoe. That's 5%. That's well within my marketing budget of 5 to 10%. I mean, 10 to 12%. I'm good. Or, whoa, I'm spending a lot to get this guy and he's not spending that much with me. So maybe I need to rethink this, right? So this is a good way to check yourself, to know. A lot of times with marketing, we just don't know. We throw as much money at it as we can because we know it's important, but we don't really understand how it's performing and how to optimize it. And so we start from scratch every month, every year, trying to figure out the new thing, when really there may not be too much wrong with the old thing. We just need to look at it and say, well, this campaign did well, that campaign didn't do well. If I can just shave it by 10%, I'll be good. It just needs a few tweaks. I don't need to do a whole new thing. I don't need to open up a new Twitter account and scrap the old one because Twitter didn't work for me last year. You can work more intelligently and more efficiently when you have this information at your fingertips. Then we talk about the value of acquisition. So this is when we look at, again, we're going to do it for every segment, which we've already talked about. You're going to take all the money you made from that product, from those campaigns that you ran, and then you're going to divide it by the number of customers, the number of acquisitions, the number of sales. And that gives you the value of acquisition. That's how you know you put the two numbers side by side. So I spent $1,000 on marketing this product, and for it, I sold $100,000 worth of product. That's a good deal, right? Or I spent $60,000 marketing this product. I made $100,000 on this product. That is not a good deal. I've got to change something. And we have the $1 million question. Does the cost justify the value? Are we looking good? Do we need to make tweaks, or is this just real bad and I need to get professional help to like look at it? And that's okay. There's no shame in that. You know, I'm a big fan of the outsource. You know, if you can't do it, give it to someone who can. Otherwise, you'll spend more money trying to figure it out to do it half as well as somebody who could just do it. Big on that. Super big on that. All right. So now we want to look at the lifetime value of a customer. So we want to factor other things in. So let me give you an example. We're doing a makeup line right now, so I'll give you an example. You can run an ad to a $5 lip balm, right? Let's just say you're doing a $5 lip balm, and that $5 lip balm, you know, you ran an ad to it, and you know, maybe the ad cost you $1 per click or whatnot, and so it doesn't look great. But then you look at it and you say, you know what? That person spent $5 on a lip balm with me, but then through my nurture sequence post-purchase, she later bought also 6 more lip balms throughout the year, overnight cream moisturizer valued at $42, and a, I don't know, foot scrub, right? And so now throughout the course of the year, she has spent $200 with me. Cost me $1 to get her, and throughout the year, she spent $200 with me. Now for that one campaign, she only spent the $5, but over the year, she spent the $200. And so look at both of those numbers, because depending on what you sell, that's going to matter. If you're a one and done, like sale, like a makeover or something, you know, like if you're just a one and done sale, then all you need to worry about is a marketing campaign. But most of us are not. Most of us intend to continue to sell to that customer over time. They'll run out of it. It'll break, you know, they'll need a continuous service. And so always factor in that lifetime value of the customer. And again, it's a lifetime sale of that segment versus the number of customers. So like I said before, unpacking is half the battle, but it's how you work smarter. It really will give you a sense of confidence so that when you get to the point that you're making marketing campaigns, you're not making it with one foot in, one foot out, right? Like, oh, I hope this works, but I have no idea. It's a crapshoot. We don't want it to feel, we want you to feel confident about it. We want you to know that it's got a solid chance of doing well. And if it doesn't, you know exactly what variables to look at to see why it didn't, so you can fix it and optimize it instead of starting all over again. All right, any questions on the math? Okay, so why did we do that math, right? So first we set a goal for what we wanted to accomplish this year, right? Then we looked to see what was going to be in Q1 our primary focus. Are we working on our advertising? Are we working on our marketing? Are we working on our sales? Well, now we've got to actually put the campaigns together that are going to help us accomplish our advertising goal, our marketing goal, or our sales goal. And so by unpacking what you've done last year, you don't have to start from scratch. You can find the ones that were doing well and then reevaluate them, open them up, look at them, see how you can improve them. Or at the very worst, if they all did terribly, you can say, well, not those. Let's start a new list here, right? And so it'll help you to not repeat old mistakes or to just keep going and fix and optimize the things that are kind of sort of working, but maybe not as well as you'd like. Okay, last thing. Well, we'll save this one for next time, because this is all about building it. So this will be the start of next session. So yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. I hope this was fun for you and also informative. Does anybody have any questions or comments or thoughts on it before we leave that maybe we can address?
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I look at marketing and advertising and reading articles and things of that sort, but I hadn't had it broken down like this before. So it's made a lot more sense to me this time. So I have a better perspective. So I appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Any questions about anything? Anyone stuck in a specific spot?
I have a lot to do.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Yeah, it's a lot to do, but take it slow, one step at a time. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you can even get half these numbers together, you're a heck of a lot better off than you were last year. Whatever you weren't recording, you can start recording now. And, it's just one bite at a time. This just kind of breaks it down, gives you the overall picture, and then, just start tackling as much as you can when you can. So, all right, hopefully I'll see you guys in a couple next month.
Yes, I just dropped in. I dropped it at the beginning, and now there is again the second session link. If you want to register, it will be the same format in Zoom. So you want to register for that. It will be like a continuation of this. Feel free to share the recording once it's up on YouTube. I'll email you all also for your feedback. But if you want anybody else to attend the second session, I think they should watch this first and then have that as an introduction. But thank you, Sarah, so much again for your time, and thank you everyone for being here, and we'll hopefully see you next month.
Thank you so very much.
Bye,
Blessings
guys.
and cheer and good
Bye,
health.
everyone.
Everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye. It was so good to meet you.